Hey everyone, I'm Ian Douglas, the author of the website TechInterview.guide. I do live streams every Sunday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern about topics relevant to interview preparation for the tech industry. I occasionally record longer Q&A sessions, and I've started to break those into smaller videos to post. And there'll be information at the end of this video about how to get in contact with me if you have additional questions. Let's get to it. All right, a question that we got: how do you answer, what was your last salary, without sounding rude in a job interview? I've answered similar questions to this on other streams, and the consensus that we come to is like, you should never give them a number first. You should always find out from them what they're willing to pay for the role before explaining how much money you want for the role. Things that I've explained in the past is you should always give a range of numbers. You should never give just a single number and say, I want to make this many dollars. You can also come up with a whole compensation package if you want and say, this is my ideal sort of comp package with salary and benefits and stock options and things like that. But kind of what we say in the industry is the first person to kind of say a number is the person that's going to lose. But, I think that that's a little bit us or them sort of mentality. And I think we need to be careful about that. There's a mutual respect, I think, that has to happen. And so while I do agree that we should kind of keep it under wraps, and we should probably, reserve some of that, you should always try to find out from them, hey, what range are you offering for this role? Can you talk about that? Just, I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time, but can you give me a little more context for the conversation? What are you willing to pay? And then I'd be willing to kind of share my input from there. I think that kind of thing is kind of a smarter approach. It can be hard sometimes to defer because some companies, they kind of take the same mindset of we don't want to tell you the number first, otherwise we're going to lose. We want you to tell us your number first so that we can sort of beat that or figure out how to work around that number, those kinds of things, which all sounds a little weird. It's this big, weird sort of dance that has to happen between companies and candidates, but it doesn't have to happen. That's the thing, is if there's a good mutual respect, then it's not a dance. It's not a gimmick. Just be honest, be open, and say, this is what we're willing to offer for the role. What's your expectation? Is that even within your expectation? In Colorado, though, the nice thing here in Colorado where I live, any job post from a company that's in Colorado, they have to explain the salary expectation as part of that post. So that's kind of a nice thing. And then you can kind of negotiate from there. But you have to know those numbers to begin with. So if you check out the last stream I did around compensation packages and negotiations, I do kind of go into a little more explanation on that. As far as answering the question, how do you answer what that last salary was without sounding rude? The first thing I'll mention is in some states, it's actually illegal for them to ask you that. In the states where it's not illegal, you can kind of defer the question by saying I've signed non-disclosure agreements and I've agreed that I wouldn't talk about it. And most companies know that that's just a bunch of bullcrap, that you're not actually signing a non-disclosure where you're not allowed to talk about your compensation. They know that you're just kind of deferring them at that point. So just be honest and just say, my previous salary history doesn't define the amount of money that I'll be making at this next role. This is my expectation. We've already discussed that. And so my previous salary history shouldn't play into that. I think that you can literally use terminology like that without coming across rude, and just say this is a new avenue for me, or this is the new sort of skill that I want to get into, or this is the new direction I'm taking my career, and this is my expectation. My previous roles weren't going in that direction, or maybe they were. So I would say if the new role that you're getting into is a different kind of role, then you can use deferring language around, my previous salary shouldn't come into play because this is a new direction. And so because it's a new direction, this is my expectation for heading in that new direction. If it's similar work that you've already done, then again, you can kind of defer and say, my previous salary history, doesn't really matter. This is the role, these are the responsibilities I'm willing to take on, and this is the expectation that I have. And so just hold your ground on that. And I would say you don't have to be rude about it. There are ways that you can sort of phrase that without coming across rude. just by deferring the answer a little bit, because it's not important. Like, companies really don't need to know how much money you made at a previous job. They have a set expectation of what they're willing to pay for the role that you've applied to. Just ask them what that is. Once you know that range, then you can negotiate from there. But your previous salary history should never come into play on that. Hey, thanks for watching. I love helping people out with interview prep, and I hope this video helped you in some way. If you found this Q&A useful, please consider subscribing. You can follow me on Twitch as well for the live stream twice a week. Check out techinterview.guide/streaming for more information. I also have a daily email series that you can subscribe to on the website. There are never any ads, and when you finish the series, I scrub your information out of my database permanently. Finally, if you have a question that you'd like answered on the stream, you can find my contact info on techinterview.guide. I prefer LinkedIn or email. If you leave your question in a YouTube comment, it might take me longer to find it, but I'll see you next time.